Open the file creating and editing.sta. Now that's the template file, which means that every time you open it, you'll end up with a brand new copy of it. So it doesn't matter whether you mess up. In the first exercise, I want you to learn to use the selection tool. This is something we've already covered, so it should be familiar. Remember, here's the picture of the tool I want you to use, so click over here on the left side, pick up that tool, and click on the first object, then click on the second, and you should see they appear selected. If you drag your cursor across more than one object, you'll see that they appear selected, and in this case it really looks like there are 3 objects selected. Look at the object info palette, there are really only 2. So when you finish that exercise, go to the active layer button and choose the next exercise down, or the next layer down, the pan tool. This is the tool I want you to use. It looks like a little hand. So click on the hand. So click and hold your mouse button down, move across, let go of your mouse button, and there it is. Click, move, and then release. If you have a regular mouse with a mouse wheel button, like a regular Microsoft mouse or Logitech mouse, click and hold down the wheel button and Vectorworks will change to the pan tool, and you can move it, and then when you release the wheel button, it goes back to whatever tool you had active. So regardless of the tool you're in, you can activate the pan tool that way. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer down. There is a zoom tool, which is what I use most of the time for zooming in and out. You can see the picture here that I want you to use, and here's the tool over here. And there are 2 different modes. The marquee mode allows you to click, and it creates a marquee. You'll zoom just into that marquee. You've also got the interactive mode, where you click and hold your mouse button down and pull out, and as long as you keep the mouse button down, you keep zooming. I find that one a bit of a challenge sometimes. Let's just fit to page area. And I tend to use this one, particularly on very large projects where you just want to zoom into a small area. This one is very quick and very effective. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button, choose the next layer down. The 2D Locus is a great tool. It's a non-printing tool. You should be able to see it here. There's my 2D Locus tool. Click, and that places a locus. A locus never gets bigger or smaller. It always stays that tiny little size. But the great thing is they don't print, which means that you can use them to leave points behind. So if you need to remember something like where a site model started, you can use the locus to do that. They've got a couple of other uses which I won't go into, so I just wanted you to learn how to use the locus tool. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button, choose the next exercise down. If I select each line, let's start with the blue line, you'll notice that it's got a direction in the X and 0 in the Y direction. And if you click on this button here, we can look at this with polar coordinates, it's going in a 0 angle. If you click on the red line, you'll see it's got a 45-degree line, or you can have a look at it and you'll see it's got the same X and the same Y direction. And the magenta line, it's got an angle of minus 45 degrees. So that's 0 degrees plus 45 minus 45. When you finish that, go to your active layer button, choose the next layer down. Now we're actually going to start drawing something. So we need the line tool, that's this one here. Let's click on the line tool, click on P1, click on P2, and you'll notice that when you try to move to P3, you're not drawing a line. So you have to click to start, click to finish, click to start, click to finish. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next exercise down. Lines to a length. Now it's tempting in this example to cheat and just draw the lines from P1 to P2, but I'd like you not to. Click to start. Now you should have activated on the window menu, data bar options, allow numeric keypad entry, that's this one here, allow a numeric keypad entry for instant data bar activation. You should have activated that some time ago. That means that you can just get to this area here where you can type in the distance, 11 feet. Tab, and you can see the line goes across. Enter once, enter again. If using the metric file, that's 3.5 meters. Click at P2, let's come down. we're going down 5 feet. So 5 feet, enter once, enter again. If you're using the metric file, that's 1500. So come back 3.5 meters, 11 feet, enter once, enter again, click, and we're going to go up 5 feet, enter once, just be careful of the angle, enter again, and that finishes. So you can see it's tempting just to click at P1 and P2 and then P3, but please practice that technique of inputting the information. We can use this on lots of different projects and lots of different tools. Although I've just used lines, this is a really useful technique to learn. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next one. Lines to an angle. Still using the line tool. Click, tab, 32 degrees, enter once, and then go up near P2 and click once more. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer. The double line. This is my double line tool here, and there are preferences that we can fill in. So let's have a look here. We've got a separation. We're going to do this 8 inches or around 200 millimeters. We want to create lines, or we want to create polygons, or we want to create both. Let's try just creating lines. So click to start, click to finish, click to start, click to finish. You'll notice you've got a bit of trimming up to do. Later on there's an exercise on the trim tool or the connect and combine tool, and you can use that to join these together. We also have the ability to draw down the center line or to draw on the other side. So there are several options here. We can make it constrained lines, which will stop us drawing to any angle that we want. Freeform, and we have our preferences, remember. And the preferences allows you to create extra components, in other words extra lines, so we can create more than double lines. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer down, rectangles. Let's look at our rectangle tool. That's this one here. We've got 4 different ways of creating a rectangle. In the first mode, click, click. That's fairly simple. Let's delete that. And the last mode, click at P1, click at P2, and then click at P3. And you can use your floating data bar to control the lengths and angles. And let's just escape from that. Click to finish. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer down. We're going to use our floating data bar. This is something we've also done before. So click to start. We've got 11 feet minus 5 feet. Enter once, enter again. And if you do it with positive 5 feet, you'll end up with the rectangle above. So this is 3.5 meters in that direction. And 1500 millimeters in that direction. Enter once, enter again, and there it is. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next exercise down, or the next layer down. Back to our rectangle tool, rectangle from center. So you click here to start, and then Vectorworks will create that rectangle from the center point. You might notice that the dimensions you need to input here are half what you expect, because it's a rectangle from the center. Therefore it's going to double the sizes or double the dimension from the start point. When you finish that exercise, go to the next one, the next layer down. This is the last mode that we want to use from the rectangle. So click, and you'll notice it goes from the center point and goes out to there. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer down. Here we have the ability to create rounded rectangles. So let's choose the rounded rectangle tool, click to start, click to finish, and when we go back to our selection tool, you'll see this extra handle here. And if we move our cursor around, you'll see it change, but we might have to change this to unconstrained. And then we can move that around. You can see I can move those corners and do whatever I want with them. If you make that proportional or symmetric, then you can type in the diameters. Or proportional, there's no diameter, but it's always based on the size of the rectangle, and as you change it, you'll see they get a little bit squished in the corners. If you don't like that, make them symmetrical. You can also try using the rounded rectangle in this mode. Click, click, and click. When you finish that exercise, go to your Active Layer button and choose the next layer. Circles. We can create a circle by radius, by diameter, by 3 points. So click, 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 so the circle passes through those 3 points, or from 3 lines. Click on the first line, click on the second line, click on the third line, and then you can choose where that circle can go. So sometimes you might find you have to go back to the selection tool, then back to the circle tool in order to get that to work for you. A circle and a center point. You can see I can align this up with, it's going to be a tangent to that point, or the true tangent one. Click, click, and there it is, perpendicular. That circle is at a tangent to that line. The trick with these different modes is to try to find the mode that suits your drawing situation at the moment. It won't always be the same. Sometimes I need to use that one, sometimes I need to use this one, sometimes that one. I always look to see which of these modes is going to work best for me. When you finish that one, go to your Active Layer button, choose the next layer down. The oval tool looks similar to the circle tool, but it's not, because it creates ovals. So let's click at P1, click at P2, you can see it creates an oval. We can also create an oval this way, so it's going to rotate that oval slightly. There it is, so that's a rotated oval. And the other way is using the center of the oval. This uses the center line, so it gives us the ability to set the major and the minor axis. When you finish that exercise, go to the next layer down. So these are our arcs. We've got several modes. Click, click. That's an arc by radius. We've got an arc by 3 points. Click, click, click there. Or you can click along an object like that. This is an arc to a tangent. Anywhere you click is the start, and then your circle will be at a tangent to that first line. The center mode, click, click, and then we can choose where we want our center to be. We can type in an actual distance for that. Let's put in 6 feet, and so that's a 6-foot radius. Click, click, and then we can choose our offset, and this one where we can put in the actual length. I'll just get rid of some of those. I just want to be left with one. If you use your selection tool, you can stretch that arc as much as you want. If you grab hold of here, you'll see you're changing the radius of that arc. If you grab it there, it's pulling the radius out. If you hold down your Option or your Alt key when you do that, you see you can actually change that quite dramatically. This end, Option or Alt, and you can stretch that around, make quite a lot of changes to that. When you finish that exercise, go to your Active Layer button and choose the next layer. The Freehand tool. So the Freehand tool, let's have a look at our preferences. Let's turn our smoothing to off, and we'll just draw a line. We'll try and make it go through those points, and it's a little bit hard and it's awfully jaggedy, and you'll see there are 171 vertices along there. If we add a little bit of smoothing to that, let's have low smoothing, so the same thing. You see it's a lot smoother. it's only got 13 vertices and it looks much smoother and much nicer. Sometimes you want to set that to very high and it will really smooth out, but you may not want it to smooth it out quite that much. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer down. Polylines. Polylines can have square corners, bezier, cubic spline, tangent, point on an arc, or arc vertex. So let's look at the pointy corners, or the corner vertex mode it's called. Double click to finish, and you can see it's quite pointy. If we look at the next mode, this is the bezier, they look lovely, but the radius changes constantly all the way along. So if you're trying to dimension the radius, don't use that one. Cubic spline, this is quite different, where the curve goes through each point. Again, double click to finish. Let's have a look at this one. And so it puts arcs in. And the last one I want to look at is the arc fillet. So let's have a look. Let's set a fillet radius of 10 feet. Enter. 3 meters. Click, click, and you can see it puts a curve in, puts in quite a nice curve. I'll just draw another one over here, and you can see it's got a 10-foot curve or a 10-foot radius. This is great for just drawing nice curves. These are radius curves, so you can dimension those with the radius tool if you want. Great for landscaping and architectural design. So when you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button, choose the next exercise down. Triangle. You might find the triangle hiding, so right click or click and hold your mouse button down, and there's our triangle there. So we can have a triangle with 3 sides, 2 sides and an angle, 2 angles and a common side. So let's have a look at this. We go click, click. What length do we want those sides to be? Which side do we want to create it on? If we go back to this mode, click, click, and we want that angle to be 60 degrees. What happens if we change that angle and make it 30? And then the 2 angles. So that one's 30, that one's 60, and there's the angles. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer down, Polygon. So you might have to right click or click and hold your mouse button on that again to get back to the polygon. So this is just a question of clicking to create the polygon shape you want. You can hit the K for close key, and that will close that polygon for you. So click, click, click here, click there. Don't click there, don't click at P5, just wait, hit the K key, and it will close that, but notice that angle there is always going to be 90 degrees. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next exercise, creating polygons from objects. The other way we can use this polygon tool is in this paint bucket mode, or the inner boundary mode. When you click, Vectorworks will flood that area until it hits something that causes a boundary. If the line doesn't cross all the way over, so if this line is a bit short, and we try to do that same thing again, the polygon will try to leak out of the side here. It's like juice spilt on the table. It'll sort of flow around till it hits something. So that has to touch or go through there. It's easier if you make sure it passes over it, and then when you use your polygon tool, it'll flood that area. Let me just do that one again because I'd like to show you another trick. Click there, now hold down the shift key, click, and it'll join those 2 areas together. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next exercise down, the next layer. This is the lasso mode, or the 2D polygon from outer boundary. And what you do is you drag your cursor around the entire object, and if it totally encloses some things, then it will create a polygon. There's my polygon. You notice the first time I went round, I missed the end of some lines out like that one, so it won't include that line. So you have to totally enclose those objects. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button, choose the next layer down. This is the double polygon. With the double polygon, we have the ability to create lines or polygons, or lines and polygons, and it looks very similar to the double line tool. So we're going to set this to be 250 millimeters. We're going to create polygons. We could create components. Now there's a huge difference between this and the one we used earlier, the double line. When we double click to finish, you notice it actually joins all the corners neatly. It has a solid fill in the middle, and it's a single polygon rather than those individual lines that we saw previously. You can use it down the center line mode. You can use it down the right side or the control line. If you want to change this as you're drawing, so before you click for the first time, you can hit the U key on your keyboard. Nothing else, just the U key. No other hotkey, no modifier key, just U, and it'll change the side that you're drawing down. After you've clicked, you can't change it. It's grayed out. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button, choose the next exercise down, the next layer. This is for drawing regular polygons. That's this one here. And you just put in the number of sides that you want. Click to start, click to finish, and there it is. Now change modes to that mode, and you'll see it's quite a different polygon. And we can also do along the bottom here. So click there, there. When you finish that exercise, go to your active layer button and choose the next layer down. And this is a spiral. And there are settings here for setting up the spiral. So the distance per turn, let's try 3 feet or 36 inches. The number of turns 4. Start radius 18 inches. And the increment 15 degrees. And the thickness 24 inches. Let's see what happens with all of that. And then you click, and that sets up your spiral. If you change this to 12 inches, you'll see that changes the thickness of the spiral. So that's the end of this movie, and it's the end of this section because this is the end of the creating exercises. The next movie carries on and looks at the editing and modifying tools.